Welcome to Adventures in Utopia. Let's call this an appetizer for Series 2, which is coming soon. The second series will explore new narratives around sound, consciousness, economics, intelligence, dreams and music, and has some really fantastic guests. As is often the case, there's not always enough room for all of my guests' words of wisdom. One such is Eden Project founder Tim Smit, who appears in a future episode on radical economic models. We had a fantastic conversation over Zoom. Tim, a straight-talking Dutchman who, unlikely as it seems, once wrote songs for the Nolan sisters, always has a refreshing take on things. Here he is with a few nuggets of wisdom that will, I hope, wet your collective whistles for the series to come.
I went to the Oxford Farming Conference 3 weeks ago, and I said to the audience, I want you to forgive me for what I'm about to say over this next 4 minutes, but I'm going to form a political party, and all of you in the room are going to support it. And after you've supported it, you're going to be in absolute wonder that I'm such a genius. And in this room, there are people who are Brexiteers and Remainers. There are people who are capitalists and cooperative things and so on. I said, okay, number one, everybody put their hands up who thinks that it is our duty to future generations to make sure that water on our one planet home is kept clean. Everybody puts their hand up. I said, great. Okay. Who believes the same for air? Everybody puts their hand up. I said, this is going well, isn't it, guys? I said, how's about that we also believe for future generations it's probably pretty wise that we make it as part of the national interest to keep our soil fertile and healthy and sustaining those things which will keep that going on into the future. Yeah, big roar. They'll put their hands up. And I said, this is a tricky one. The fourth one is tricky. But bearing in mind what we know about life on Earth, do we all agree that we ought to not only maintain all the living things that are currently on planet Earth, but we ought to encourage them becoming more plentiful, because it's probably likely that nature knows more than us about the balance of things. Therefore, on the precautionary principle, it's a good idea. Everybody goes, yeah. I said, that only took 2 minutes. And you've already agreed on 4 massive things. And they're not political. What is this telling us? What it is telling us is that systems that are presented to us as being handed down like the tablets to Moses, such as capitalism, have been handed down to us with a crack, and that crack going down the middle of the tablets is vested interest. And if you could remove vested interest and plaster up that crack, and that crack then becomes seen to be moral fiber or moral compass, call it whatever you will, and you say every business on Earth that damages any one of the 4 things that we've all agreed on is not considered a business. It is considered an act of treason to the future. Now, if you remove all businesses that do those 4 things, it is astonishing that if you look at the FTSE 100 and asked yourself if they were acting in true ESG mode, in which those 4 things were deemed to be in the national interest, in the international global interest, and they had to monitor, measure, and police their own activities according to those moral principles, I think probably 80% of all the problems on Earth would disappear. Normally, you'd have to pay £10,000 for the next words I'm about to offer. And listen to that David Bramwell, because he knows how to convince people to say marvellous things for less than £10,000. In fact, for nothing. And are you listening, listeners? This is it. Accept every 3rd invitation you receive. It doesn't mean you don't accept the 1st or the 2nd, but accept the 3rd. And the reason is that your natural tendency is to only choose those things which fit in with the prejudice or preference of your existing mindset. If you are me and you do accept your 3rd invitation, you will have got drunk with people you didn't know. You will have attended the West of England Ballroom Dancing Championships. You will have judged various dog shows, orchid shows, plant shows of every description. You will have opened an old people's home. You will have travelled to parts of the world you didn't want to go to. You know, the amazing thing is that every one of those meetings I have met people doing the same. And you talk to them and you realise that you're suddenly in a milieu where you are self-selecting for the curious, And I'll tell you this, and it's absolutely true, not said for this podcast, almost every single professionally life-changing event, and some of my personal ones, came from accepting that third invitation. The Eden Project would not exist had I not accepted a third invitation to talk to 50 people and a dog in a Nissan hut near Taunton. But I had to go, and I spoke. 3 months later, I was in a room in Plymouth full of commissioners from the European Parliament, and we were competing with 5 counties for money from what is called ERDF 5B, and Eden wasn't going to get a single penny. We were a risk, and they wanted to put the money into things they were already doing, a university here, a college there, a road here. And suddenly this old man got up. Everybody recognized him. I certainly recognized him. He'd been the man in the front row with the other 49 and a dog attending my talk in Taunton. And he said, I know this man. He bothered to travel all the way to Taunton, which is not in his home county, to talk to all of us in this Nissan hut. We are convinced that he has the wider West Country in his mind, not the narrow confines of Cornwall when he wants to build the Eden Project. So we are going to reject one of our own projects if all of you reject one each, and then we can build this marvellous project. The result of 1 hour and 30 minutes of talking in a Nissan hut in Taunton was £12.7 million from Europe. I'm not saying that every time you accept a third invitation will it end up at that sort of ending, but what it does do is it proves a point. You see, a lot of very dull people say that life is about meeting the people you need to meet. That is why often rich parents send their kids to public schools. That's why people like to go to Oxbridge. You know, the really sad truth of it is that no one read the small print. See, the small print is that you go and meet the people you need to meet in those places. You do. But if you read history, if you're a keen student of history and the magic of invention, you realize to your absolute horror that magic is not created by meeting the people you need to meet. It's by meeting the people you didn't know you needed to meet. So, the advice I give you is accept the third invitation. But do not accept it if it clashes with a domestic commitment. But your predisposition is to accept that third invitation unless you've got a darned good family excuse not to go.
Hello?
Is that David, yes?
It is. That sounds like Daisy Campbell.
Good. It is. Well spotted. Right, listen. I'm phoning because I've got a proposal for you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping you're going to be up for. Well, you know my mad bit of land in Brighton, my kind of humongous, insane garden.
You have a very large garden at a very improbable slope right in the heart of Brighton.
Yeah, it's full of rubble and brambles and all the rest of it. It's been something of a head scratcher, this garden, for me. Well, anyway, I've decided what I'm going to do with it, and I'm calling to propose that you and other friendly types help me build utopia. This is the vision now.
I'm all ears.
Well, there's going to be like a sort of elders' grove. From that will run a waterfall. This will lead you down to the amphitheatre and then round to the Asclepian darkness chamber so that we can consult the grottos once again.
I'm interested. I particularly like the idea that you're building an Asclepian a dream temple, because that ties in very nicely with one of the themes for Series 2. But my big question, Daisy, is will there be food?
Yes. I've got my mate Viv coming to cook for us. It's going to be once a month. We're going to light the hot tub at the start of the day, the wood-fired hot tub, and as soon as it hits 40 degrees, everyone can down tools and get in the hot tub. It's a pretty good deal, don't you think?
Do you know what? I'm going to accept this third invitation that's landed on my doorstep. I'll see you next month, bright and early, 10 o'clock,
I'll send around all the details,
start of the month. I look forward to joining you in the garden, in the hot tub, and having a square meal around a fire and some good conversation. And
some work, David.
And
some hard work.
That was
Don't forget that bit.
Series 2 of Adventures in Utopia is coming soon. Ish.